Okay, so having lifted the hosta out of the border, I'm now going to show you how we actually prepare it to propagate it vegetatively. So what we're now looking at is the clumps of hosta that have been removed. So it's good practice to try to clean up your plant away from where you're going to pot up. So I'm going to do it on this side of my preparation bench here and then clear that out of the way. So what I want to do is gently remove the soil, trying to keep it separate from my potting material. And just shake it. Now this plant really is desperately in need of moving because it's in a very dry spot, and that's why we're kind of dividing it really. So as you can see, I didn't do very much work there, and it's just immediately come into two plants. And I've got another part which was the second part of the plant, and I'm going to actually cut that between those two. We've got two nice potential new plants here, so this is going to be one, that's going to be another, and so I'm going to cut through here with my knife. So lay that on the bench, get my knife well away from my hand, and I'm just going to slice right through that clump there. Now if you don't have a proper knife, you can use a bread knife, but please be careful of that, and cut away from you and make sure the knife is then put to one side while you're working. So there has been some thought about having to put something on this exposed part now, but actually we're going to pot this almost straight away. There's been some research to suggest that actually putting in something on that actually inhibits it from rooting properly, so I don't favour that. What I do want to do though is I want to try and minimise the loss of moisture from this plant, so I'm going to cut this large leaf off, and I'll probably do the same with this one here. So again, back with a knife, nice sharp cut, and take that leaf off. That's to reduce the loss of moisture through that plant. It actually has got roots, so we're not too concerned about that, but it makes sense to reduce the water loss. So I'll just do that, and I'll do it one more on this one. I'll take this larger leaf off on this side. There we go. And then I'll do a little bit of prep. I won't use that one today, I'll use this one. I'm going to take this very large leaf off because that's actually going to lose a lot of moisture. Take that away. Now this is the point where we have to look at the roots, and the roots are in quite good condition here. If they were too big to go into your pot, you could actually just snip those roots off. It's going to be quite amenable to doing that, so don't worry too much about that. So we've got 3 new plants there for free from our border. Now we could immediately plant them straight into the border, into a new site if we wanted to, but today we're going to pot them up so that we can bring them on a little bit before we then plant them back out in the garden. So I'm just going to spend 2 seconds moving my dirty soil to one end, and then we're going to pot them up again. So recycle pots, so we've had these for a couple of years, we're going to recycle these and get the plants going away in these before we then put them back in the border. So the way I favour doing this is I kind of put the plant centrally into the pot, hold that with one hand, and then I just gently tip in the compost with my other hand. Give it a little shake down, and let it firm up, and then gently with your fingers pointing down rather than like this, gently into the pot. Give them a little tap on the bench to make them nice and stable, and that's a nice new hosta plant. So I'm going to put that behind me. That can be watered, well watered later on. I'll just show you that again with the other one. So this one doesn't really have very much root, but there is potential root in all of this structure here. So I'm going to put that into the compost, holding it still, pushing it down, nice and steady, nice and firm. Not too much of this, because you want air around the roots while it's producing its new growth. And more. And then hopefully we've got enough compost to do this last one. Again, you don't have to be too pedantic about this, but it is sensible to put the plant in the middle of the pot, because then it's got the potential to grow in all directions equally and evenly.
How often would you water it, Gary?
We certainly need to water it, well water it in when you've done this operation, and then once a week just have a little gentle look at it. Don't forget it's not going to be growing away very vigorously yet, but a nice gentle water every time you water it, perhaps once or twice a week. Keep it out of direct sunlight, so somewhere kind of fairly sheltered, out of direct sunlight, and water it every sort of 2 or 3 days, I would suggest. So there we go, 3 new plants for free. So I'm just going to move that on one side. Okay, so that's the hosta. We'll move that out of the way so we're not contaminating the bench. And we're now going to look at our strawberry runners that we removed. So remember, we can pot strawberries up in situ by pegging them down into a pot. I'm going to show you how we can make new plants for free by using the runners that we've taken off. Just to remind you, this part is called a stolon. These are stolons, and this is the plant's natural process of producing new plants. So what we're doing is we're taking advantage of that, and we're just kind of intervening on our part so that we can make new plants for free. So again, with my knife, you could use scissors if you wanted to. I'm just going to cut the rest of this stolon off. Just have a little look at this. So these are the adventitious roots, which is going to enable this plant to regrow. So onto my little cutting area, I'm going to remove that one, put that to one side. This one again, do the same thing. That one's got slightly more roots. It's already actually starting to produce its white fibrous roots on that one. And then finally this one's quite a thin stolon, but it's doing very well. Let's flip that one over. Okay, so there we go. 3 new plants for free from adventitious vegetative growth that's coming out of the plant. Okay, so again, I favour doing it this way round. Some people fill the pots right to the top and push a hole in. I like to do it this way, it's a bit more controlled. I find it's easier like that. Now I am going to keep these leaves on actually, on this one, because there's not too much leaf area and they've already got nice new roots. So holding it about the right level, push it in, turn the pot gently, hold the plant still, and then let go of that one and push it in. Tap on the bench. That's one. Do the same with this one. I might take that leaf off because actually that's going to be below the surface and that has the potential to rot. So rather than use my knife, I'm just going to pinch that off with my thumbnail. And again, hold that in there. Tap it down. Centre of the pot. Just to remind you as well that actually the reason why we do this is because these plants are all clones of the original mother plant, and we've had a really successful crop with these strawberries this year. We've been really pleased with them, so we're trying to take advantage of that by making new ones for nothing. And there we go, 3 new strawberry plants, and again they need to be well watered, somewhere nice and sheltered, and they'll come on quite nicely. Probably I would expect to see those roots emerging out of the bottom of that in sort of 3 or 4 weeks maybe, in this kind of temperatures, this kind of light. I'll put these on the bench for watering. And then finally I want to show you how we propagate from what are called offsets. I'm going to do this particular plant here. This is typically called a mother-in-law's tongue, properly called a sansevieria. This one is variegated, so that means it's got more than one colour on its leaf. And that's a reason for propagating vegetatively, because we're going to get an exact clone from this. We're going to get all of those beautiful markings by just using the plant's natural process. Naturally, they produce these offset, and as you can see, this one would actually turn its way up and come back up to the surface again eventually. But today we're just going to take 2 off, I think. So I'll probably take this one and maybe that one. We'll see how it goes. You can see that this is quite a dense little clump here. So this looks a bit brutal, but let me reassure you it will work. So we're just going to pull that clump apart. It takes a bit of force. As long as we get a part that's got some root on it, like that one, so nice little roots on that one. And actually I'm going to use that one, but you could see actually if I was being really scrupulous about this, I might even take that bit off and get 3 out of that little bit. Deal with that later. Okay, so same principle. I'm going to make a hole in the pot. Probably take some of that material out of there. Into the middle of the pot rather. Hold it nice and steady. Tickle that round. Now these plants come from a part of the world where they wouldn't tolerate the frost, so we're making sure that we've got roots on these before the first frost. They can stay outside now, nice and watered in a sheltered spot, but they must come in at the end of September, October, before the first frosts. The hostas, of course, are hardy, and so are the strawberries. So that's a nice plant for nothing. And then this is a really beautiful little example. Just knock that one out. Make sure it's kind of centrally in the middle. Don't be afraid to kind of push the roots in. You can be fairly kind of brutal about this. Plants are incredibly resilient, actually. Tuck that round there. Nice and gentle. Remember, fingers downwards. Little tap like that. Probably needs a bit more firming up. And there we go. 2 new Sansevierias for free from a naturally occurring process called an offset.
And what will you do with the mother plant, Gary?
Well, probably, since it looks a little bit pot bound, it probably on a slightly later on I'll be potting that into a larger pot, I think, because it's probably exhausted its nutrient supply in there now and it needs moving up to the next pot size. So that's why you might actually do this. You might find that you need to pot up a plant that's got too big, and in the process of doing that you can produce some offsets. So plants for free and doing a proper job of looking after your plants in the future.